Hello everyone, welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday for February 12th, 2020. How's your day going? I'm having a good day so far here. I'm actually not in town, so I recorded this video ahead of time. So I appreciate you popping on and watching with me. Today I am using the Mountain Air bundle. So it comes with the Mountain Air stamp set, and it also has these fantastic dies. If you have not used this stamp set, I'm going to tell you, it was so fun to use. And when you look at it, you can see you could do lots of little landscaping things with it, which I think is fantastic. And you can see where I was practicing on my graph paper there. But anyway, so I'm going to show you the card I made today. What do you think? I think this is a fantastic little birthday card. It's neutral. You could use it for a guy or a gal. I just absolutely love how it turned out, and it is really quite simple to make. And so I am just going to show you right now how to do that. All right, so what I started with was a basic gray card base. And so you're just going to fold your card, drop it on yourself, fold your card base in half, use your bone folder on it, give it a good crease. You can kind of set that aside because you don't need it quite yet. And then you're going to need one for the inside and one for the outside of Whisper White cardstock. And now for the one on the inside, all I did was I stamped these little birds on it, and I did those in basic gray ink. So I'm going to grab that ink pad, and we'll just do that real quick and put that on the inside of the card, and then we don't even have to worry about stamping that at the end. Just make sure you stamp your birds the right way because they're so tiny, they're easy to look at and just stamp, and then you go, oh, I just stamped those upside down. I almost did that earlier. A friend of mine, it was funny because she messaged me, and she had used the exact same stamp set today. Just, we hadn't planned on it. It was just something she did too, and she stamped her birds upside down. So she's like, make sure you don't stamp your birds upside down. I was like, oh, good tip, because they are kind of tiny. And it was funny when she messaged me and said that because I literally had just stamped the inside of this first card, and I almost did stamp them upside down. So it was kind of funny that she mentioned it to me. So little story for you there. All right, so the first thing we're going to start with is Pool Party. And Pool Party is what we're going to use for that mountain range. As you can see, it's a fantastic little mountain range. Now these stamps are reversible. I forgot to put this. So you've got one side that's completely flat, and then you've got the side that has that design on it, that mountain range design. So I'm going to ink it up for the mountain range, and it's going to be a little bit wider than the card, and that's not a problem. So just go a little bit above center. And now my Pool Party ink pad is really juicy because it's brand new. And so it stamps really dark, which is great. But just remember, sometimes it might, you could always stamp it once and then stamp again if it's too dark for you. But once it dries, it won't be quite that dark. Then we're going to turn that mountain range around and go back to that flat side. That's one thing I love about this stamp set is the reversible. And so let me show you on the cover. You can see which stamps are reversible because it'll have the image, and then it has what the back of it looks like. So the trees are reversible, the mountains, these trees, actually everything on here is reversible. So even the little birds are a little cloud. So now just going to ink up the back of that with the gray granite ink. Make sure I got that even. It's kind of hard to see when I'm going to swipe it again and then restart because I don't want lines on there. There we go. So I went just a little bit into that first mountain range, but just stamp. Now with this one, it would be a good idea to put your block underneath you, which I forgot, but since I'm going to be putting these trees on there, it's not going to matter. Now the first time I stamped it, I didn't get those little white spaces left over. I don't know, I guess I was just lucky the first time I stamped it. So now we're going to do the trees, and now we are doing the side of the trees that are textured. We're not doing the back of them. And we're going to use basic gray ink for this part. And you're going to go, again, for this part, you're going to go about halfway up that second mountain range image. The first time we didn't go quite well, I guess we might have went almost halfway up, but in that basic gray. And now you can see once this dries how much lighter it is once all the inks dry, because you can see how that pool party is getting a little bit lighter, and that gray granite will get a little bit lighter, and that basic gray really does lighten out a lot once it dries all the way. And now we don't have to do the back of that, so we can just set that stamp aside. We'll put it on this side because I have the ink pad still over here. We're also going to use, sorry, this is what we should have did to begin with, and forgot that we needed to do this at the beginning, but that's okay. I have one set aside just in case. But we are going to take a piece of vellum, and I used a 1 3/4 inch circle punch. You could use a 1 1/2. I think a 1 1/2 would still work. I don't think we sell the 1 3/4 anymore, and I didn't realize that for some reason until after I was done. But we're gonna stamp happy birthday onto that vellum circle. And now this happy birthday sentiment comes from the Bonanza Buddy dies. And now because we are stamping on the vellum, that needs time to dry. So I'm just gonna set that aside to dry. If that one's dry, we'll use it. If not, I have another one stamped and ready to go. But that is the last of the gray granite that we need. So we're gonna have our mountain range here. Now we wanna use Mango Melody to get that bright orange moon. And now what I did with this is you're gonna have to do a little bit of masking. If you've never done masking, usually use, you can cut out this mountain range onto this Post-it. You can stamp it and then cut it and then use the sticky part on a larger Post-it. But because all we really need is this little spot here, because we want it to kind of come around that mountain a little bit, we're just going to mask it off right there. And then see where this stamp is going to go is right over where that mask is. And because I didn't quite put it, should have got it a little closer right there. If you put it right on the edge, it's great. Except when I did it the first time and put it right on the edge, as you can see on this image here, I'm going to point it out, it kind of stamped a little off, and then I didn't get this little edge here to stamp it all. So let me see if I can get that to, I've got that little spot of ink right there. Get that to come out on, no, I just totally ruined my image. Oh well, we're gonna pretend it's normal and I didn't ruin it. That's what happens when you try to fix it and stamp over it. Not a huge deal. All right, so go ahead and take those little birds again. And I guess we are not done with the basic gray because I forgot I want to stamp those little birds on the front of the card too. So we're just going to stamp those little birds on the front of the card. Maybe we'll stamp them so they look like they're going over my mess up spot there. There we go. Put them on there twice this time, right? And grab yourself just a scrap piece of Whisper White. It doesn't have to be a big piece. It doesn't have to be a certain measurement. Obviously, it needs to be big enough to fit the trees, but I've got some little scrap strips, and I'm going to use one of those because we're going to stamp them in Mossy Meadow, and there are two different tree images in this stamp set. The single tree. Make sure I've got it inked up. And then there's a double tree. It's got the taller tree and the little smaller tree next to it. So once you have those stamped, you can use the dies and cut both of those out because you're going to need both of them die cut out. And I didn't realize when I got this stamp set how much detail is on these trees. There really is a lot of detail in those branches, so they turn out really pretty when you have them stamped. Once you have them stamped, you can die cut them out. Ta-da! We have them die cut already. And then the painted label dies from the Painted Poppies stamp set. I love this swirly circle. So I went ahead and cut out one of those swirly circles because I wanted that for this card. So we're going to go ahead and adhere this to the front of the card. And again, you could use whatever adhesive you want. I'm going with my snail. Take some Stampin' Dimensionals. We're going to put dimensionals on the back of each of these trees and also on the back of that swirly circle. These dimensionals look funny because for some reason, 2 of them came off and were stuck to something, and then I went to use some and I just grabbed them from this end. I'm like, I'm just using dimensionals from all different angles on this thing. So take that first set of trees, the little double trees, and kind of front left, stick those on there. And then our swirly circle, we're going to kind of stick front right, just so it goes just a little bit over the edge of the bottom of this tree here. Not much, just a little bit, just so that circle, just kind of one of those swirls kind of goes over it. And you can make this circle as high or as low as you want, but I didn't want to take away too much. I wanted everyone to see the image there. And then I took a piece. This is designer series paper from the Come Sail Away kit. And I loved the way this Mossy Meadow map looks. Just kind of, you know, because it's outdoorsy, even though it's for sailing. I was like, we are going to use this for the mountain range. I like it. That's what's going to go there. Now the other side has those compasses, which would have been pretty had I used Night of Navy or something. But I didn't. I went with Pool Party and Mossy Meadow, and that happy birthday is still a little wet, so I'm going to use this one that is already dry. See, it takes a while for ink to dry on vellum. Now you can use your heat tool. That will help it dry faster. And you could use like a fan. Sorry, I'm reaching over everything here to grab my glue. I am just going to take a couple of super tiny little dots of glue, and I'm going to put them like right behind some of these letters here so they won't show through as much, because it really does not take much to hold this vellum down. But that way it will dry pretty clear and you won't even see the glue that was used to hold it down. I love how that Tombow glue works on that vellum. It's fantastic. Take the backings off from your other little tree, and you're just going to put it right here next to that happy birthday on top of that swirly circle. And there you have it. That is how easy that card is to put together. It took maybe a minute to cut out the trees and the swirly circle and get, you know, and that's with picking my paper and getting it set up in the Big Shot and doing all of that. So this is a relatively easy card to put together. Don't forget, it's from the Mountain Air stamp set, and today is One Card Wonder Wednesday for February 12th, 2020. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back next week to see what I will be making. Have a great day, and thank you for joining me. Bye.